but I had to get on here and talk about Kamala Harris putting a black woman in jail that has a 2-year-old son and a husband, thank God, for marching in a Jesus rally. This woman is very outspoken. She marched in a Jesus rally, and because of it, 150 lives were saved and not aborted that day. They literally took her through trial and sentenced her to 3.5 years federal time. This just happened. Check this out.
I was found guilty and I'm sentenced to 41 months in federal prison for preaching the gospel in front of an abortion clinic. Exactly that. The claims were that I was violent and things like that, which are very false. I'll tell you this, the event happened in 2020, okay? Police were on site both days of the event. I was not arrested. I was not detained. I had no type of charges or forthcomings with the police at all. And I was sued actually a year later by Letitia James, once the same person who came after Trump. Once Trump was out of office, they sued me on an injunction to keep me 30 feet from the building. And so because I had moved to Tennessee, I just went and settled without admission of guilt because I was no longer in the state. I think I had came back to New York to visit, and I had went to the abortion clinic that morning just to kind of, make my rounds, say hi to the people that are there and preach a little bit. And Letitia James came after me. And then in 2022, right after Dodson was overturned, they beefed up the charges and indicted me on a federal charge with the secret grand jury that they had that I was not aware of. And they indicted me with FACE and conspiracy of FACE for the exact same event that I wasn't arrested at, that I had no kind of police encounters with. The police were on site there, and they went ahead and indicted me for FACE. Basically, they said things like me saying, no peace for the wicked, and we cancel this place in the name of Jesus. Those are forms of threats. Me talking to women, and I think one day of the 2-day event, 150 women were scheduled to do abortions. None showed up. That they considered that obstruction. You're interfering with women's care. And I'll never forget this. Before they sent the jury back to deliberate, the jury was told, this is not about the Bible. This is not about religious beliefs. This is about women's rights. And I was devastated to see the jury come back with a guilty verdict. The jury admitted that they thought that I wasn't guilty on the accused hand injury that the lady claimed I hurt her hand in a door. But I think they found me guilty of threatening things that I was saying. They assumed it to be threatening because of FACE, not realizing that FACE is not supposed to come against the First Amendment. I have a right to preach the gospel, and preaching things out of the Bible that may seem warfare. It may sound like warfare, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm invoking threats and violence. I'm speaking in the spirit, but they were like, we're not going to admit this to the jury, your First Amendment. So the jury basically went off of what they said, and based off of what they said, if a person felt threatened, I'm threatening them.
Right now, I'm about to drive my wife to a federal facility. She has to surrender herself there, and this is due to the Harris-Biden administration. And any husband in this country, anyone that's married knows, any mother, any father knows that a separation from your loved one, a separation from a mother and a daughter at 2 years old is traumatic, and no American citizen should have to experience this in this country. Obama has the audacity to speak to black men and tell black men they need to vote for Kamala Harris, when Kamala Harris administration is separating my wife from her daughter at 2 years old for unlawful assembly. My wife is facing 3.5 years for unlawful assembly and federal time, y'all. Okay, federal time. and it's devastating for our family, but we're gonna get through this. But I want people to know in this country, mothers, fathers, single mothers, that this cannot be tolerated, and you should not vote for Kamala, because voting for Kamala would do things like this.